Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I want to welcome you to another episode of Jacket Talk. Of course, my name is John Cannon. We're here at the Edcouch-Elsa Technology Center. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we are in the presence of greatness. And I'm being very honest when I say that. This is a very special episode, one that I've been wanting to do for a very long time. There's been so many greats when you think of the history of Edcouch-Elsa athletics. There's been some great athletes, great coaches that have come through these halls and played on the football fields, basketball courts, baseball diamonds, a little bit everywhere. But if there's one name that you think of when it comes to the greatest, it is none other than the man known as Coach Robert Capello. Coach, I've had goosebumps all morning thinking about this interview, and I said, I just hope I get through it. I remember sitting for so many years in your house with your son Randy, listening to stories, watching film with you, going to basketball games with Mrs. Arguelles, when I was a kid. I have my own version of stories, but what about you, Coach? I mean, in so many years, how many stories and how many memories have you come up with?
Well, Johnny, quite a few. Actually, all of my memories are great memories that I will always take with me and go wherever I go, those memories will forever be with me. Back when we were in junior high, to high school, then A&I, and then starting my coaching career in Mission, and then doing well there. I think the Mission kids were wonderful kids, and I may just want to say that I've coached for 5 decades, and I've seen it all. I've seen kids that would go through the wall if the coach asked them to, and then we had to adjust to the new generation where we really had to depend on motivation and things that would bring about their very, very best. And usually my stories were good enough to motivate them because I was a migrant, a cotton picker. My family used to migrate everywhere in Texas, and we always loved sports. My brothers all are ex-Yellow Jackets, and they went on football scholarships to A&I and Sam Houston State. But getting back to Edcouch-Elsa, this is a very, very special place. In the junior high, we always wanted to be Yellow Jackets. That's where this thing about once a jacket, you're always a jacket. We always wanted to be Friday night heroes. All of the young kids coming up to the ranks in school, we would dream about the days when the lights would be shining on us and we wearing that old gold and black, the gold helmets, black helmets, the double E, and just basically establishing a winning tradition that we can always say that we were the beginnings of what Edcouch-Elsa truly is in terms of athletics, because Lloyd and I were part of a very, very explosive football team. I mean, we were beating the bigger schools by 40 points and things like that. And what it was, we had a conglomeration of youngsters that were skilled, and they had a big heart, and we left it all on the field. We played under any conditions. If we were hurt, we never told anybody because we wanted to play. And there was a lot of kids that played hurt, but they were there. And we won some games, and memories are great because we remember beating Mission 48-8 or 6, I believe, and we beat Weslaco. There were our rivals, Donna. We beat them 24-12. Raymondville had an excellent team. La Feria had an excellent team. Los Fresnos, but we took care of everybody on a weekly basis. We had a great coach that was a young coach that would show us by actually getting down and running with us if we had to run sprints, he would lead the team on the sprints. And so the man was actually like a second father to us. He showed us that there was greatness if we believed in ourselves, which we did. And we went 10-0 that year. And unfortunately, we ended up playing Sinton in the by-district game, and we lost 28-30. But we did have three, at least, might have been four. Lloyd, how many were they? Three touchdowns called back. And we figured that if we could just kept one of them, we would have made it a long, long ways, because we kept following the teams that Sinton was beating, and they compare very favorable to us. So I think George Salinas did a little review, and he said that team, the Edcouch-Elsa team of 1959, could have very easily made it all the way to the state semifinals.
Wow. And
he had every reason to believe that, because we had kids that were completely dedicated. We were all good students in school. We did good. We had excellent teachers. Our coaches were very, very good. So this tradition, I like to think that we started the tradition, Lloyd, because I don't think there had ever been a team prior to our team that went 10-0.
No, definitely not. And our brothers would probably argue that point, but nonetheless, the facts are the facts. That was a beginning period in football, that 10-0 season in the district. You can't put a plaque up without starting there. So that's great.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce to you as well one of Coach Capello's classmates, and probably his biggest fan, I can honestly say, and that's his 1960 graduate classmate, Mr. Lloyd Hesterly. Lloyd, we talked about there's so many stories we could talk about when it comes to Coach Capello. Let's take a walk down memory lane. How did it all begin for this man to become one of the greatest quarterbacks, one of the greatest football players, and then the transition into basketball?
Well, John, it's real simple. We had a small group of kids that started. Some of them started in 6th grade, some of them started in 7th grade, and we played everything that was to be played: tiddlywinks, marbles, and we were very competitive as a young age. And basketball, track, and football was the thing. And we had a huge 7th and 8th grade seasons. We won a lot, we lost a lot, but in the losing process, that's the part that makes you want to win more. So Robert really did real well in basketball, and to everybody's disbelief, he was not a quarterback in junior high, 7th and 8th grade. He was an end and other things. But freshman, Lumright got hold of Robert and said, "You're going to be our quarterback, because if you look at those big old ugly gnarly hands, he can wrap around a football or basketball, either one." And we had our freshman year, he had what we called the B Bombers. I don't know what they're called now, but that was the B team. We didn't have a freshman team. And we beat the living hell out of everybody. I mean, not bad, but really bad. And, got to the point, and this continued on in high school, our freshman year, we as starters didn't play the second half. And all these other guys got experience, so that's great. And, a number of things that happened along the way. We had some really tough years, our sophomore and junior years. I mean, we played competitive, but we didn't win everything. But our senior year, the perfect storm came along, and boy, did we go at it. And we did the same thing as we did when we were freshmen. We beat people in the first half, and everybody else played in the second half until Sinton. So, but I have one experience on this guy that you will just crack up laughing. This is a serious man. Takes everything, competitive to the ump out there. But our sophomore year in Donna, we're playing, and all the big names across the way. Well, we've got the ball in the third quarter. We're moving down the field. I'm guard. We're down, and at that time, you couldn't move once you were set, both quarterback and. So all of a sudden, I used to be a center, and I know when a quarterback's in the wrong place. Pop hits me between the legs. He's standing behind the guard, not the center. And, the motion, we were called right away, and I'm saying, Robert, you're in the wrong place. Robert, you're in the wrong place. And to make this more tellable, 2 years ago when they opened the new Mercedes stadium over there, Robert and his son Bobby, my older brother Lewis from the class of 54, we're sitting over there, third quarter, same thing. Marco goes on to the left guard, doesn't have any realization. Robert and I are the only ones in the stadium that realizes what happened. We're both popping one another. Just those are the things that make all of these years so worthwhile. And for me, coming back here in 2002 and following him to this 1000th is just wonderful. Well, let me tell you a story about something that you would have loved to have been at. A few years ago, our reunion group, we were meeting in Kerrville, and I used to live in Bernie, so we stopped and visited with a mutual friend, a fellow by the name of Stan Leach. He was a basketball coach at Bernie High there. We went in and visited him, and they had built a brand new high school, Bernie Champion. We went in there, and it's like a little college. But I sat down, and at that time, Robert had over 800. Stan had just won his 600th game. Talking about being the fly on the wall, listening to these guys talk about their players every game. And it's, we sat there for an hour and a half, and I didn't say a word. I'm just listening. And it's the most miraculous thing. And that's what people enjoy, sitting around talking to Robert. And you obviously have from childhood.
Oh, yes.
Just the interaction. And somebody says, I don't have anything to say, they're talking to the wrong person. Yeah, it's been great and a privilege for me to be part of it.
Coach, it sure is funny how when I look back, obviously you went to A&I, played ball there. I think everybody, including Lloyd, probably thought your career is going to be in football. You're going to be known as a football coach in this sense. How did the transition to basketball happen to become a coach and for you to stick with it as long as you did?
Well, when I first started in Mission, I was assigned to the junior varsity football and the junior varsity basketball. And the winning attitude couldn't change. I mean, if you're going to win in football, which we won 28 out of 30, why couldn't we have the same philosophy in basketball? And since I was given the responsibility to develop underneath youngsters in basketball, well, I took the same attitude, and we took the practices real serious. We worked at it hard. We developed fundamentals. We got the boys in good shape, and we asked them to play as a team. And I began to real quick, I began to see the resemblance between football and basketball, because if you teach fundamentals correctly, and the boys believe in you and sacrifice, and they play together as a team, you're going to win many games. And I saw that in Mission, because we were able to transition from football to basketball. So I enjoy coaching, and I like in both sports. And since I had played both sports in high school, well, I felt at home. And then the rest is history. when I came to Edcouch-Elsa as the athletic director and head football coach, I kept the basketball job. So I was coaching football and basketball, and the same technique, the same strategy that I was using in football, which was run, 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 and pass the football. We were throwing, getting back to football, a lot of people talked about the coach that had at Weslaco at the time was White. And he had a quarterback, but his last name was Sonny. I cannot remember his last name, but he went to Texas Tech. And
Sonny Cavazos.
Sonny Cavazos.
Oh, yeah.
He was throwing the football at Weslaco, but before that, I was doing actually the same thing here. I had no backs. Everybody was a receiver. And we threw the ball. And so you can equate that to basketball. You know, what did you do in basketball? Well, we shot threes. We pressed. As soon as you got off the bus, we put a press on you. And we pressed you throughout the game. And it didn't matter who it was. I remember one year Laredo United came over to play us. And we pressed them so hard. And I was, at that time, I was very energetic. And I felt like I was playing the game myself, which of course I wasn't, but I was playing it to the kids. And I had 20 boys that were of the same talent. In other words, I realized real quickly that why would this other boy not play, being the fact that we had already done that in football. In football, we would play one half and then coach would play the second stringers and third stringers. So I felt that I could do the same thing. So that's what I'm talking about, John. The transition from football to basketball was very easy to me because I was already ingrained with that. So we got to the point where 5 boys would come in and 5 boys would go out every 3 minutes. If there was a timeout, I didn't have to substitute. The boys knew when to go in because I had a sophomore point guard that had his team. At that time, it was Albert Sanchez. He had the sophomores. And then the juniors had their own point guard, and the seniors had their own point guard. So all 4 teams had a point guard and a team. So it was not unusual for during the timeout for 5 Yellow Jackets to get up and go to the center table to check in. If I would come in, if I would go out. There were no questions, why are you going in or what are you doing? They understood the game. And to me, it was very, very enjoyable because they were really something else to watch. And I was able to use strategy with them because we were playing Mac High. We beat them 136 to, I believe, 83. But at the half, we had them 67 to 30 at the half. Now, most people would think that that's a full game score. But at the half, we had that kind of score. So what I would do, I would tell, in order to motivate, because they were so good that they all felt that they needed to play 32 minutes. So what I told them at the half, I said, you know what, the 4th team is playing extremely well. Of course, I was using a little bit of what they call psychology. The 4th team is playing extremely well, and so what I'm going to do, this is against Mac High, when they were the top dogs. And they were, back then it was the 4A, we were 3A. So I said, I'm going to start the 4th team the second half. Man, you should have seen those kids from the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd team. Man, they were upset with me, and I think that they even called me some names, but man, I got what I wanted to. The 4th team went in there, and they picked up where they left over. Man, they were scoring left and right. And then I said, the 4th team, you're doing great. Let's put the 3rd team in there, and the thing continued. The 2nd team, and then when they put the 1st team in, they went ape. I'm telling you, we scored at will, 136 against Mac High. At that point in time, no Edcouch-Elsa team in any sport had ever beaten Mac High. So we were we used them for guinea pigs. We opened up what we call, that team was just beautiful to watch. We went 30-4.
That was a 90-91 team, right?
Yes, sir.
That was,
Yes,
I
sir.
remember that very well.
And we lost to the state champions, which was Austin Westlake. And they had tremendous athletes and a great school. I know President Bush, I believe it was Bush, declared
Governor at that time.
they declared Austin Travis as the model school for the United States.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, I went a long ways to answer your question, but to me, it was very easy to leave one sport and pick up another one. And then when the fall came around, you know, I kind of forgot a little bit about basketball and went about my football duties. And, you know, I was very fortunate that I was able to coach in the Baytown area, in Barbers Hill. And I was over there with a Edcouch-Elsa coach that had come over here and gone to mission with Lum Ride, Gene Sharp.
Okay.
He went to Barbers Hill and he hired me over there as his first assistant and backfield coach. And we were fortunate enough to tie for the state championship in football. So I actually have been blessed, you know, my decisions. God has been with me. And I have to say that the good Lord has blessed me in a lot of ways, you know.
To say the least.
In just in thinking that where would a cotton picker that went to pick cotton in Lubbock, Texas, years later, go back to Lubbock, go through the cotton fields, but instead of getting a cotton sack, I got me a basketball and stood side by side with Bob Knight. I was now doing a basketball camp, not picking cotton, which was a big difference. But I bet you $1 to a donut that there is not very, very many people that can say that they were cotton pickers, and years later they went back, but they went in there as professionals to do a basketball camp for a man like Bob Knight. You know, I bet there's probably none that have had that experience. And I owe that experience to the good Lord. I think that He set it up that way where I could sit here today and give Him credit for all of my good luck.
There you go.
Amen.
You know, Coach, we talk about that 90-91 team, and of course, your son Randy and I are very, very close. Well, he's like a brother to me. I remember sitting in the gym watching, and you guys, it seemed like you averaged about 140 points a game, 130 points a game. You've coached so many teams, but you've always told me that was the one most memorable team that you coached. Why is it? What is it about that team that just stands in your mind so much?
The kids, they were special, great students. I look back to what they have done since they played for me. There you have lawyers, you have doctors, you have pharmacists, you have bookkeepers, you have businessmen, you have a lot of our people that played for us then are now professional people. What made them special was that it was like a family. They always went together. You could see them in the restaurants afterwards together. They had parties together. They're still a very, very unified group. And I was just very, very lucky, Johnny, that, you know, I've coached some great athletes through my career. You know, Van McElroy, Uvalde. You know, I had Mike, that played at A&I. He played basketball. Van, of course, played football and played for the Oakland Raiders in the NFL and won the Super Bowl. But this group, 90-91, was a conglomeration, a group of kids. There was a lot of them, whereas in Uvalde it was just Van. I mean, he was outstanding. He could have played baseball, basketball. He was just very, very. What made him great was that he had great work ethics, and what made the 1991 team great and the rest of the teams that I've had is that we were always able to sell them on the idea that good work ethics, hard work, dedication, belief, all came together and they could become successful. And I still say that in today's youth, if anyone can become, you live in America where you have an opportunity to do whatever you want to do, achieve whatever you want to be. I just talked to a young man this morning who said he was going to go to college and he was going to take some kinesiology courses. And I said, well, look, if for some reason you lose interest, get into physical therapy. I said, they need people like us, bilinguals. But I'm still offering advice, and that's what I did with these other guys. I was always in position to offer advice, and they could listen to me because they could see a man that had already gone through it. I mean, where do you get a cotton picker or a migrant to achieve, go to school? Actually, I made good grades in college, better than high school. I went ahead and got my master's at Sam Houston State in Huntsville. And while I was there, I ran into some coaches that I would talk to them all the time about basketball, and I learned so much basketball from them that, I feel like I can drop this basketball right now and get a group of kids and teach them how to win. But I don't know if I have answered your question or not, but it has been fun. Coaching has been, if I had to do it all over again, I would choose coaching. My oldest brother is an orthopedic doctor. I feel like perhaps I could be one. My youngest brother is a registered pharmacist. Perhaps I could have been a pharmacist. But coaching, I felt that it would be a lot of fun, and it has been. I mean, I felt like I could play the games that I love through my kids that I was coaching. So I have a lot of respect for them. They will always be my boys. It's a big family. It doesn't matter where they're at. I always told them, if you're in trouble and you need some help of whatever, call me. And there has been some. They have called me as late as 12:30 in the morning. They're in trouble. And I have gotten out of bed and going to help them. I'm not going to tell you what the story was all about.
No, let's keep it. Let's keep it at that one.
But it was always fun, yes.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Coach, we've got all these accolades that you've done, and we could sit here for days talking about everything that you've accomplished. But obviously, the most notable, the 1,000 wins. 1,000 wins. You were second all-time in the state of Texas for most wins. You were just inducted into the Texas High School Hall of Fame. What am I missing? I know I'm missing some stuff here, but name some of the biggest accomplishments that you have gotten while coaching basketball.
Well, I think that I'm going to start from the very beginning. Being an athlete, I was always able to be around good-looking girls. And that's how I found Miss Capello.
There you go.
I found her in Donna. She was selling popcorn for the pep squad, and Lloyd and I walked into that gym with other guys, and I looked at her, and she's a beautiful girl. And so one of my greatest accomplishments was being married to her, to Gloria, because I'm going to tell you right now, no coach can ever be successful without an understanding wife. Because that wife the wife that doesn't understand coaches is going to always expect the husband to be there on time for supper, be there for the birthdays and other festivities. And in coaching, you're taken away from the family so many times that you're not going to be able to keep a wife that doesn't understand happy. Well, Gloria did. I mean, she grew up with the Avila family from Donna. In fact, they were next door neighbors, and I know that you know about the Avila boys.
Oh, yes.
She had a lot of conversations with the Avila girls and so forth and so on. But my greatest achievement, I would say, is being able to marry Gloria. And of course, she was so understanding. And then, of course, coaching my 4 boys was very, very special because I was able to go over game plans in the table. I always told them, you guys are on scholarship. I mean, I don't know if you know it or not, but you know, you eat here, you go to sleep here, we're giving you room and board. I mean, what else do you want? Just go out there and play the game. You know what? The second boy was a very, very good athlete. Rick, all-state in football and basketball. Of course, Bobby, the first one, great athlete. They're all good, okay? I mean, I'm not saying this because they're my sons, but they compare with the rest of the kids that I coach. Now, I'm not going to say that everything was dandy, great and dandy, but because some boys didn't understand the value of hard work, and they didn't stick with it. But then they would come back later, and they would say, you know what, Coach, I made a mistake. I wish I had done this. If I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't have quit. And I said, well, you know, I tell them all the time, I said, you know, we make choices, and we have to live with those choices. But getting back to some of the greatest accomplishments was the 5 Hall of Fames. I don't know too many people that can say that. You know, when I went to the Laredo International Hall of Fame, we had guys like, there in the picture you have Tom Flores for the Oakland Raiders, the coach of the Oakland Raiders, and the quarterback for the Oakland Raiders. So Tom Flores was there. I mean, it was a very, very special occasion. I felt like maybe I was out of place, but then I soon realized that our accomplishments, our legacy here at Edcouch-Elsa have been outstanding. So I would say that the friendships through the years, the team players, you know, I played basketball with a very, very good team here at Edcouch-Elsa. I was a sophomore, and Bob Hansen was a senior. Barry Carter was a senior. And, you know, we went all the way to the regionals in basketball, and we lost to a very, very good Taft, the Greyhounds. But it's always been about athletics. I mean, to me, you throw a ball at me, I'm happy.
That's why you had to have that ball in your hands. I remember before the episode, first thing you said is, you want the ball here? No, I want it in my hands, leave it right here. Lloyd, I'm going to go back to you. Obviously, one of the crowning moments, and again, this Hall of Famer, we go back to everything, but you and I both sat there the night this man won his 1,000th game. In all the years and all the times that you've seen him, I remember you told me, John, this is my proudest moment. What was it like to sit there and witness this man who has given his entire life to the sport, be able to go down as now one of the greatest and achieve an accomplishment that a lot of people don't get to in winning 1,000 games?
I think it was, for me, just very humbling. Because I remember I looked at my watch, game ended, 12 minutes later I got out of the stands because there was no need for me to go down there. I couldn't get to him. I wasn't big enough to push my way in. And you know, it's all about getting a piece of him. And you know, I don't think people realize, and we're not going to talk about the losses, but how many losses were there in there? How many road trips? How many, as he said, away from the family? And you know, those things have big impact.
Yes.
So when that 1,000th came on, man, that was just unbelievable. And I think that you know, you achieve accomplishments in your life, and this was one that, you know, I was on the internet for days answering people wanting to know all this information. And I think one of the greatest accomplishments outside of his basketball career and coaching is the fact that he's still Robert Capello, graduate of Edcouch-Elsa, humble, and what you see is what you get. and he's never changed for any of us. And we have a very close-knit group, kind of getting a little bit smaller. And I know that your dad's passing last year.
Yes.
That was a hard time for all of us. But, you know, when you can keep a group of people and call them friends and have contact with them over all these years, that's a hell of an accomplishment.
Yes, sir.
It is. And, you know, I'll go back to one thing that really impressed me is back when they had the Robert Capello renaming of the gym.
Yes, sir.
Across the street. We're sitting in there, and I had invited the UT Pan American coach over because he was a member of the church that I was in. And he's sitting there just shaking his head. He said, I cannot believe all these things are going on. But one speech was a local Valley coach. He got up and he said one thing. He said, I hated like hell to come play Edcouch-Elsa. And he said one thing. He said, I knew I was going to be. Because these kids ran, you know, and they would run the other team in the ground. You know, I'm not sure that that was the philosophy, but that coach, that had a psychological impact on him coming to play these guys. So
That was Roy Garcia. I remember that.
Yeah.
Oh, he would tell me stories about, because I remember there would be tournament brackets, and it seemed like Roy would have, and he says, why do they do this to me? I'm going to get beat 180 to 12, you know? And I remember coaches would cringe when they see this, you know, and there's been so many memorable games that I've covered myself, so many memorable moments. But you're right, Lloyd. It always seems like a Coach Capello team ran. You know, you've seen the movie Coach Carter. And of course, first thing he said is, hey, we didn't work on offense, but what do we work on? Running. So I want you to run. You look at Mike D'Antoni. You know, obviously when he was with the Suns and with the Rockets, they run. But I've always told everybody, you've never seen anything like you've seen here at Edcouch-Elsa when you played against him, because I guarantee you, your cardio better have been tremendous when you play a Robert Capello team. You know, Coach, again, there's so many stories we could tell. There's so many things we could talk about. But, you know, to be able to sit here one more time and do this, to me, it's an honor. And that's why I was like, no one else is doing this interview but me. Because, funny story, I have a story of myself. When I started in this business, my first game, I'll never forget it, was a tournament game at the CE Vale tournament. And it just happened to be La Feria, which was, I believe, Greg Yates was the coach, against Coach Capello. And I said, oh, right, I get to go cover. And he says, now, Johnny, just because you know my son, I'm not going to go easy on you. So you better have your questions ready. You better have your interview. And you better ask me good questions, because you know I don't do interviews. And I'll never forget that, because I was like, oh, God. And I'm not even concentrating on the game. I'm thinking, I got to come up with the right questions. So once the game ended, I'm sitting there, and I said, Coach, I'm not going to lie to you. I got nothing to say. All I could think about was the question. He says, it's okay, Johnny. I'll give you everything you need to know. And that's just the way he was. His knowledge of the game was just amazing. And I think until the day this man died, even in his grave, you're going to sit there. He's going to be buried with every inch of basketball and football that you can name.
Do you think that possibly exactly what you said, how many coaches have been on the opposite end and said, I have no words to say? You know, they've just got their butts
I've talked
beat.
to a lot of them.
Yeah.
There's so many. Johnny Cipriano from Santa Rosa, Greg Yates in Harlingen, Joe Filuteo at Edinburgh. You know, there's been so many coaches that when I ask them, Romeo De La Garza, I'll never forget this. Ed Koch and Mission Vets played one time for the district championship. And when I interviewed Romeo, and again, I can't use the language that he said, he says, we got our you-know-what's beat. And it's expected when you play Edcouch-Elsa. And that was his answer. He goes, there's my quote. I know you can't use that word, but just, you know.
Psychological.
And that's what he said. He says, we came in here, packed house, you know, wild. You're going to run. He's going to run you in the ground. And he said, the scoreboard doesn't lie. He goes, how do I get after my kids? I can't. But and then his father happened to be a referee and came in and says, in all my years, I've never been so worn out and exhausted. And I'll never forget that. But, Coach, it just, no matter what, whenever I think of Edcouch-Elsa basketball, your name is always going to come to mind. And I guess I'm going to end it like this, to be able to say that you came back to your alma mater, the place where it all started, and to accomplish everything in that black and gold shirt you're wearing right there, of all the rewards and of everything else, does that stand about at probably one of the tops?
Yeah. Just being able to, and I had several opportunities to move on after I came to Edcouch-Elsa. One of the reasons why I wanted to come to Edcouch-Elsa was I was so loyal to this community. Of course, my mother was still living here, and the big impact that we had from the '59 football team, the coach that coached us, I just wanted to come back and see what it would be like to try to revive the winning tradition and the fire. Because I wish somebody had witnessed what Lloyd and I witnessed in our football team. We felt like we could have beaten Thomas Jefferson out of New York. That's right. It didn't matter to us. And I want to tell you a story here that I heard about 4 or 5 years ago. I'm going to repeat it because this is what the athlete at Edcouch-Elsa, the general athlete of Edcouch-Elsa, is depicted on the following story. I was over there at the old field house lifting weights. And there was 2 other boys on the other side of the building because, the field house is divided into different areas. And there was 2 boys over there. They were concerned. One of them said, hey, what are we going to do? And the other guy said, well, what are you talking about? I said, well, Coach Vela is leaving. He's going back to Edinburgh. And without hesitation, and I'm going to tell you, this is what Yellow Jacket tradition is. Right here, I'm fixing to tell you. This is what he said. He said, oh, don't worry about that. He said, whoever comes in, we'll make a winner out of him. That's us.
And that's true. That is a proven fact. Once a jacket.
Always a jacket. And the reason why we agree on that, because every coach that came in thereafter, I think Chris Cavazos came in, and they were like 14-1. Juan Lopez came in, they won the district. Sendejar came in, and they won the district. Joe Solis went like 36 in a row. And then Marchelar got the kids in the playoffs. Whoever comes in, this young man that came in to head the football team, he's expected to win.
Yes, sir.
Because that's us. And you're not going to change that. It has been engraved into the hearts of all of the Edcouch-Elsa athletes. It's there. Like I said, I never wanted to move. I know when the Harlingen South School opened up, I had some calls from, and they had a good team. That team went to the San Antonio, the regionals. But I was called in to see if I would apply. Right there, almost without hesitation, said, no, I'm going to stay at Edcouch-Elsa. I'm happy where I'm at. And I'm glad that I did because I've had a lot of fun. I think that if you're going to live a life, you better include the word fun in there.
I agree.
Because it's not worth living.
If you can't laugh at yourself, don't come around there.
They say that a person doesn't grow until he has had a good laugh about himself. And that's what we've done here. And
Yes, I agree.
But I'm forgetting a lot of stories that are true.
That's why I said there's so many. We could sit here for days.
Yeah.
Maybe even months.
Yeah.
You know, talk about stories,
Yeah.
but
Write a book. We could write a
we
book.
could write a book. Yeah. And
Yes, sir.
That you know what? That's going to be. I'm looking into that. Hey,
Good idea.
I'm telling you, it would be amazing because again, it's not only about what he's accomplished at Edcouch. Everybody in the state of Texas knows who Robert Capello is, and that ring on that finger, Coach. I want you to lift that up. Signifies how great this man is. That is his Texas Hall of Fame ring. And I'll tell you what, that ain't given to just anybody. So ladies and gentlemen, I want you to understand, I want you to really, again, that's why I said this was a special episode. I know we went a little bit longer than we normally did, but I'll tell you what, it's not every day that a living legend is sitting here with us right now.
Amen.
And this man, I want to say this, played right here at Edcouch-Elsa. Coach, it's been great. Again, there's going to be more stories that are going to be made because I'll tell you, we have, and you and I have done this lately, Lord, and you'll get a kick out of this. Every March Madness, Coach Capello and I have who's going to win? Who's going to win, Coach? Well, Johnny, let me tell you. And I get the breakdown of the teams. You know, and I said, well, Coach, I think Villanova. You don't know. You don't know. No. And you know what? 99 times out of 100 picks a winner. But I guarantee you, the man loves the sport so much that a simple discussion comes into a game plan. And I think that's just the way that this man, his passion for basketball, sports in general, that is Robert Capello.
I like to finish out by simply adding that not only do I love sports, but I love the kids at Edcouch-Elsa. You know, the last 2 years, I wasn't coaching. I went into the classroom. Now, nobody in Texas would have done that. After my career in coaching was pretty much over, I asked to go to the classroom. And they asked me, well, you crazy or something? I said, no, I love the Edcouch-Elsa kids. And I'll die saying that the Edcouch-Elsa kids are the best.
Amen.
Are the best. And when I was in the classroom and I was teaching to them Spanish, I had a lot of fun. And remember what I said, if it's not funny, it's not worth it. But I had some children in there that I really enjoyed. I really loved them. And they will forever be in my hearts because I don't coach just to coach. I coach the holistically, the whole person. Be a boy or a girl, as long as he's from Edcouch-Elsa, I'll stop and talk to anyone from Edcouch-Elsa, and I'll try to give them advice as to what they can achieve in life. I don't have to tell them that I was a migrant, they already know. But whenever I say things like, you know, you can achieve, they listen to me. I mean, I was teaching Spanish this past year, and whenever I wanted to get them to start laughing, I would just cite a story or two that actually happened in the classroom at Edcouch-Elsa during their playing times in high school and so forth. And they'll just crack up and we would just close the period. We would just close the book. But that's what I wanted to say. I just love Edcouch-Elsa.
Well, you know what? I got an idea. And Lloyd, you need to help me with this. We're going to end this. We're in a huddle, Coach. Call your favorite play. You're down by 2, state championship game, 13 seconds left. The floor is yours.
38. 38, that's my play. It's a 3-point shot for the right wing going to the left corner, receiving 2 screens in the bottom blocks. And we're going to get the ball. We're going to start to the right side to make them think that we're going right, and then we're going to reverse pivot and bring the ball to the left side, and we're going to hit that 3 from the corner to win the game.
Need I say more?
Perfect.